We're talking about the drumroll again. This actually got changed so many times that I'm re-recording the video. So I made a video on this previously. I'll link in the description below. I'm going to leave it up because it's, it's an outdated video, but it shows how it used to be, which was a weapon that was underpowered in the current game. It didn't have much going for it in the way of the 6 perk, and it only had 2 perks on it that actually helped its damage in any special way, considering it had 2 utility perks like mag size and reload, and then it had like an energy perk or an elemental perk, so you could change that, and that does increase your damage, but it's standard on every single weapon, so I don't usually count it. And then it only had 2 perks that it could amount to effectively crit damage, or fire rate damage, or some form of combination like that. What they changed recently, as far as I'm aware, in the same exact update, they not only made it so that you could change the mag size and reload to an extra damage perk if you want, but they also increased the base damage from this number to that number. So not a huge change, but it is definitely a damage increase and something that is somewhat noticeable. I don't know why they would tweak it by so little, but it's definitely a nice bonus to have. Now, that alone wasn't really enough for me. I figured, if you have an extra damage perk, then my entire video is still relevant, and the damage bonus wasn't enough for me to really re-record things, but I kind of assumed people could just figure out where they'd want to put that extra damage perk, until today's update, where they made it so that every 10th round fired increases the damage by 15%, capped at 4 times, which means 40 bullets in, and this does work on assault ammo recovery, we'll get into that in a second, and how to increase your mag size. That means after 40 bullets, or 40 shots fired, you will have a 60% damage bonus that will clear as soon as you switch off the weapon or reload. And I did test this because it does give you an audio cue, which I'll play here. So you'll hear that sound. It's kind of like a shotgun every single time that you get the bonus. And then you can effectively just count to 4 in your head, and that's when you know it's active. I'm not thrilled with that kind of indicator. It's a little bit awkward. I thought that it was a teammate shooting a shotgun, and I wasn't really aware of what I was listening to. And it doesn't really tell you which one it's on. I much prefer the spy weapon effect, where it kind of swirls around you and it shows you a color. I don't know if that's something they'll change, but regardless, that will indicate that the damage bonus is going up. And that is a huge increase, because previously it had headshot eliminations cause explosions, and that is unexceptional to say the least. It's really not that big of a deal. So the best perks for this pretty much remain the same. I have since switched to crit rating and crit damage because I really wanted to utilize that ammo efficiency. So fire rate and damage is, for all intents and purposes, the same DPS as crit rating and crit damage, but you'll be shooting way more bullets that on average do less damage per bullet. So crit rating and crit damage allows me to shoot just a little bit slower, and it allows me to potentially hit much harder, with this 6 perk being active for a longer length of time rather than just burning through my entire magazine. And then, of course, I actually kept it mag size and reload, so that did really, really well. I'm sure you've seen from the gameplay so far that it is absolutely shredding everything with a mag size reload build, and I'm going to switch here now to a quad damage build. I would never recommend a quad damage build. At best, I'd probably do triple damage and fire rate, or crit rating crit damage double damage, because it's kind of the same DPS. So I wouldn't recommend a quadruple damage, but Skulls was nice enough to give me a copy so that I could actually use this and see how it performs. And no surprise here, it absolutely shredded. The thing does way more damage than my copy, 60% damage if you will. Not exactly, but the 2 perks are quite nice to have. And the problem with that, though, is you empty your mag significantly faster, 75% faster if you will, and then it of course has a very slow reload speed. It has a 1.7 reload speed with the reload perk, which is pretty good, fairly exceptional, and then 3.0 reload speed without it, which is actually fairly unexceptional. 3 reload speed is pretty much what the Bobcat has, and a lot of people complain that that weapon has too slow of a reload, so I'm going to complain about it here, saying that that is too little. So in terms of increasing the magazine size, that's why I have the mag perk on here, because you'll shoot for 75% longer, and you'll do less damage overall per bullet, but you'll be in the fight longer, so the time spent firing is actually quite a bit better, and the total damage output per magazine actually goes out quite a bit, and I personally prefer that greatly. If you don't want the mag size, you don't need it, because assault ammo recovery is a thing. We'll talk about it in a second, and that would free you up to have an extra damage perk. I prefer reload just hands down. I don't think this weapon is a comfortable weapon without a reload perk. No matter what combination you do, whatever damage bonus you want to give yourself, triple damage, fire rate damage, crit rating, crit damage, definitely try to consider having a reload perk on this, because I think it's going to make using this weapon a lot more comfortable. As for the element, it doesn't really matter matter. I'm going to link my elements video in the description below if you guys want to figure that out on your own, but energy's kind of the best all around, and if you want to match it with your other weapons, then pick an element that suits you. Now, to help you increase your mag size, assault ammo recovery is something I hugely recommend if you haven't, because that 24% chance to refund ammo shot is actually, mathematically, I'm not going to get too far into it, but it is basically a 31% mag size increase. So with 50 bullets, you actually have about 66 shots. And of course, with the mag size bonus, you'll have like 106, 107 shots. It's significant. I definitely recommend the mag size, as I said, and you will get a ton of ammo. And that's why I was going to get into this earlier, I mentioned, because with 106, 107 shots, you will get more than 60 bullets on average with that 60% damage increase. The majority of your mag size will have a 60% damage increase, which is huge. That is a very, very, very good bonus, and it's a nice thing to have. However, if you don't have him, almost everybody should have Light Show Spitfire, and he is definitely inferior. So if you don't have Stars and Stripes Jonesy, he's actually okay if you're not using a mag size perk, because the 30% is only 1% less. However, the difference is when you have that mag size perk on your Drumroll, because that 30% applies to the base magazine. So it's going to give you 30% of 50 every time, no matter how many bullets you have. Whereas if you have assault ammo recovery, that 31% ammo recovery actually applies to the mag size bonus afterwards. So if Light Show Spitfire gets changed in the future, he could be a perfectly good alternative, but the most extreme example I've seen are LMGs, where your base mag size is 100. So if you have a mag size perk, you have 175 shots, and with Light Show, you have 205. Whereas if you have Stars and Stripes Jonesy, it's like 250 or more. It's a lot. I don't know the exact number, but it's significantly higher, and that's why I prefer Stars and Stripes Jonesy more. And there's even an extra bonus reason. So this isn't a big deal to everybody, but instead of just increasing your mag size, it actually gives you a chance to not consume ammo, so you actually end up spending less medium bullets or light bullets or whatever weapon you're using in general, and it's a good way to actually save on some of your resources so you don't have to farm as much. But that wraps it up for the Founder's Drumroll. I've never actually re-recorded a weapon guide before. I did re-record the anti-air trap when they added the range perk and made it do damage to the flinger husks. I very agree with that. I think it was a great change, and I might do more update videos in the future. However, I don't think too many weapons that I've covered have been changed significantly enough to mention all this. Every weapon in the game did get this extra damage perk where there previously wasn't an option, but as I said, it doesn't really change my recommendations, and I feel like a lot of people will be able to figure that out on their own. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this weapon. Let me know what I should review next. The Nocturno is already on my plate. Don't worry about it. I'll link it below when I release it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. Oh, and also my creator code's back, so put that in. Do 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 do.